Your WavyOcho will react to the complicated beef between Pharrell and Kelis.
In the early 2000s, Kelis and the Neptunes enjoyed a highly successful partnership, particularly with the
Y'all remember that milkshake song that she did? You know,
iconic hit Milkshake. However, it's come to light in recent years that Kelis no longer receives a dime from this song. She's made some pretty
Nah, I don't think that's fair. Like a hit like that, like a song like that, that like was popping back then, and she didn't get a dollar, she didn't get no dime, no bread. You know, she does like need a bread for that. She needs a dime. She needs some type of money for that. She need to get paid, bro. Tell me if you agree, bro.
shocking allegations about where the money has gone and how you pretty much can't trust anybody in the music industry, even close friends. Pharrell first met Kelis when she was in her late teens. She studied theater at the LaGuardia High School of Music and Art, and her friend, Marquita, knew Chad Hugo and Pharrell Williams from the Neptunes. At that point, they were merely up-and-coming producers, and Kelis had been part of an unsuccessful girl group. Kelis apparently cold auditioned for Pharrell on a stairwell and sang the Fugees' version of Killing Me Softly in front of him. Pharrell saw huge potential and invited her down to Virginia to record some tracks and have a demo tape to send out to producers. Speaking about this event, she said, "I thought it was a beautiful and pure, creative, safe space, but it ended up not being that at all." The Neptunes and Kelis ended up making a demo that was sent to Virgin Records. During this period, the label had signed other artists that were slightly left field at the time, like Timbaland and Missy Elliott, so Kelis was another suitable addition. And at the time, the Neptunes were opening doors for Kelis. In September of 1999, the Neptunes produced the song Got Your Money for ODB, and Kelis did the hook. In December of 1999, Kelis released her debut album, Kaleidoscope, and had her breakthrough single, Caught Out There. This album was written and recorded entirely alongside the Neptunes. Although it only reached number 54 in the Billboard 100, it did really well outside of the US and reached the top 10 in Canada and a number of European countries. Kelis saw Macy Gray as a kindred spirit, as both of them were young black women excelling in the largely white arena of alternative music and touring random festivals around the world. Kelis said, "Me and Macy Gray would be in freaking Kristiansand, Norway, and I'd be like, 'Girl, I see you,' and she'd be like, 'I see you.' There were no other black people touring, doing any festivals, ever at all." Considering the close relationship between the Neptunes and Kelis, a lot of people put two and two together and assumed Kelis and Pharrell were together. Both Kelis and Pharrell maintained that they were just friends and colleagues. While Kelis' career was gaining momentum, her follow-up album, Wonderland, was only released in Europe, mainly because Virgin Records were incredibly cash-strapped, and just like before, every song was produced by the Neptunes. Adding to the rumors this time around was that Wonderland was a breakup album, and fans obviously speculated again that Pharrell was the person she broke up with. In a 2001 interview with Paper Magazine, Kelis said, "I was in love, and I was being treated like trash and allowing myself to be because I felt like there's no one more interesting. I'll date a toad if he has a brain, and this guy is such a smarty pants. He would play mind games with me. It really effed me in the head."
Damn, I think she talked about Pharrell when she said this.
When pressed for further information, it was very difficult to rule out that it was Pharrell she was talking about. He's in the spotlight and everyone loves him. He just totally took for granted the type of person that I am, and he would feed off.
And I ain't gonna lie, Pharrell hasn't aged, bro. And I think he's in his 40s and he still hasn't aged, bro. And he looks like he's in his, and he looked like he in his late 20s, bro. He's in his 40s and he looks like he in his late 20s, bro. That's crazy.
Me because I have a lot to give. I can't tell you who it is, but it's definitely someone I still see and spend time with. I spent so much of my life with him, 4 years, and we're friends. It was hard because I totally loved him and gave everything, so it was hard for me to pull back. I loved him, I still love him, but I had to be smart. Regardless of who the mystery man actually was, Kelis would soon find love again at the 2002 MTV Video Music Awards. Kelis was invited to an after-party by none other than Diddy. She was approached by Nas, who said, "What's your name again?" Followed by, "Oh shoot, I had to make sure, because I'm a bit drunk, and I've been wanting to make you my wife for years." They dated, and by Christmas of 2002, Nas proposed, and her answer was yes. For her third album, Kelis signed to Star Trek, a brand new label started by the Neptunes, which also featured Clips and Roscoe P. Coltrane. Kelis was making a lot of money, but it soon began to unravel that she was actually owed a lot more money. All of the money she got was from touring money and not publishing or record sales. Chad and Pharrell, whom she had considered friends, had taken all of the publishing rights for themselves. Speaking in an interview in 2019, she said, "It came off very puritanical at the time, but in retrospect it wasn't, because I was robbed blind. We were Star Trek, I was Star Trek for life. I was like, this is what it is, this is fun. It was supposed to mean something, and then to find out later it meant nothing and was just the same old rhetoric and rigmarole that we're always hearing about, and that it was essentially a modern-day Motown. Yeah, you're freaking amazing, and you're talented and interesting, and you have nothing, because you didn't know to ask for anything. Whose fault is that?" In a 2020 interview, Kelis revealed that she'd confronted them about it and said, "Their argument is, well, you signed it." I'm like, "Yeah, I signed what I was told, and I was too young and too stupid to double-check it." Kelis didn't immediately cut off the Neptunes, and they were heavily involved in her third album, just not exclusively. Instead, her 2003 album Tasty contained an array of producers including Dallas Austin, Andre 3000, Rockwilder, and Jake and the Fat Man. In 2020, Kelis said, "I could tell they were really offended." When doing press interviews for that album, she was asked why she was no longer solely working with the Neptunes. She said that she wanted to be more independent and said, "I never had an album that was all mine before. Wonderland was really personal, but it belonged to a group of people. To me and the Neptunes and Rob Walker. For Tasty, I literally went and got everything myself. Pharrell and Chad were totally submerged in their own stuff, had no clue nor cared what I was doing, which was fine." The Neptunes were in huge demand during this time and were working with A-list artists such as Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, Jay-Z, Ludacris, and countless others. Kelis and the Neptunes worked on what was meant to be a reference track for Britney Spears. Britney, however, rejected it, and instead the song was used on Kelis' album Tasty. As it happens, this song happened to be Kelis' biggest hit ever, Milkshake, and hit #3 in the US and was also a top 10 hit in Europe and Australia. After her third album, Kelis left Star Trek and would never work with the Neptunes again, leaving music fans wondering why this incredibly successful partnership was no more. Fans were also stunned in 2009 when Kelis and Nas went through an incredibly messy divorce, with both parties alleging that they were abusive towards each other. In the 2010s, Kelis led a more secluded life on a farm and married some photographer. At some point in the 2010s, Pharrell was performing at an industry event and Kelis happened to be in the crowd. In an interview, she said, "He did that thing to me that he's notorious for, which is making a nod from the stage. So it seems like there's mutual respect when, in reality, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to yell back. You stole all my publishing." So you end up nodding back and everyone thinks everything's great. Like, whatever. And for years, Kelis had kept things private and didn't disclose her grievances with the Neptunes. It wasn't until late 2019 and early 2020 that she did interviews with Vice and The Guardian and properly went off on Pharrell. In her Guardian interview, she was interviewed on her farm in California and asked why she wasn't more angry or didn't sue them. She said, "To be honest with you, I think if it were not for my faith, I feel like that probably would be the case. It's very clear to me, especially being on a farm, that whatever you put in the ground, that is what's going to come back to you." And when asked if she would work with them again, she said, at that point there's having faith and there's also just stupidity.
Meaning no, that's a dog.
The Guardian interview in January 2020 went viral, and alongside this publication, Complex and Page 6 also reached out for comments from Pharrell and Chad Hugo, but didn't hear back from either of them. Coincidentally, Pharrell did an interview with Variety magazine to talk about Black Ambition, a non-profit he set up to help black and non-white entrepreneurs. The interviewer asked how important it is for artists to own the rights of their work, and Pharrell responded, "It is. There's no other industry out there in the world where a startup gets off the ground and doesn't own the trademark. It just doesn't make sense. It may be legal, but it's still a crime. If a bank walks away with ownership of a company and the trademark, how much should a creator really be participating? The artist should always have the lion's share of their creation." It goes on to say, "I just know that the system is wired in ways that is oftentimes not always fair to the creator. I think it should be the norm that the creators retain their rights." Pharrell hasn't been directly asked about Kelis in interviews, but Chad Hugo has. In an interview with Vulture, Chad said, "I heard about her sentiment toward that. I mean, I don't handle that. I usually hire business folks to help out with that kind of stuff. We made some cool records back then with Kelis. It'd be great to connect with her again somewhere down the line." But in the summer of 2022, Kelis was more than willing to burn her bridges with the Neptunes forever. In July, Beyoncé released her 7th studio album, Renaissance, which contained the song Energy. This song had an interpolation of Milkshake, and Kelis was not asked for permission, and this was done through the Neptunes instead. This prompted Kelis to take to Instagram and air out her thoughts. She began with a rather passive-aggressive comment about Beyoncé and said, "At the end of the day, she sampled the record. She's copied me before. She's done it before like so many other artists.
Damn, talking about Beyonce.
It's fine, I don't care. The issue is that not only are we female artists, okay, black female artists, in an industry that there's not that many of us, right? We've met each other, we know each other, we have mutual friends. It's not hard that you can contact me, right?" Kelis goes on to say that it's just common decency to ask to sample her song. "I know what I own and what I don't own. I also know the lies that we're told. I also know the things that were stolen, publishing was stolen, people were swindled out of rights. It happens all the time." Kelis then takes admittedly quite funny shots at Chad Hugo. The real issue is the fact that the people like Pharrell and like Chad, who Chad really is like an amoeba and he's just spineless. It's a miracle he can keep his neck up, but Pharrell knows better. Kelis posted not one but 2 videos on Instagram, and the second one she points out Pharrell's hypocrisy in the interview he did in Variety, saying, "So we've got Pharrell, who did an interview I think last year talking about artist rights and how people should be able to rework their deals, and artists should be getting credit for what they've done and all this stuff. In reality, when I was signed to him, I had the same manager that he had, and he has writing credits on my records. Okay, all my singles coincidentally, and he never wrote a song, a lyric, a day in his life. So I think this comment is in relation to Rob Walker, who was manager of both artists. If you look at the full credits of Milkshake, he's down as an executive producer, which means that he was in charge of the business side of things and just putting the track together somewhat. It's not a given that executive producers get royalties, but judging by Kelis' anger, he may have struck a deal where he continued to get royalties from her music, because if he was listed as a writer, then he would have publishing on it. Whereas she doesn't get royalties, from what she's saying. If we were to make some presumptions, the likelihood is she got an advance and perhaps didn't pay it off, or it was paid off and then didn't ask for any of the money that she should have been paid after that, or didn't go through the long and tedious process it is to audit the entire situation. The Neptunes are credited with having written most of the songs on her first 2 albums. In her debut album, all songwriting credits are attributed to the Neptunes, but on her second album, Kelis is a credited writer on 9 of the album's 14 tracks. And for her third LP, Tasty, the Neptunes wrote 5 tracks, with one of them co-written alongside Kelis. Crucially, Milkshake is credited completely to the Neptunes. In an Instagram post, she wrote, "Milkshake alone is one of the most licensed records of our generation. I am a creator. I'm an innovator. I've done more than left my mark on an era of music and style that will go down in history." And Kelis doesn't specify whether it was her who came up with the lyrics, but she does imply that she was part of the creative process of the song. Kelis also pointed out Beyonce's supposed hypocrisy and said, "All of the stuff she sings about, all this empowerment and stuff, I don't talk about it. I am about it. So the reality is all this female empowerment, it only counts if you really do it." Beyonce had since removed the sample from the song. Maybe she sided with Kelis, or maybe she just didn't want the drama. It's also likely that private conversations could have taken place behind the scenes.
Or maybe both. You feel me? Maybe both.
But if they did, then Kelis would have likely just accepted or agreed to it continuing to be a sample. But despite the further spotlight on Kelis' payment issues, Pharrell has still yet to respond. And in November of 2023, there would be another twist in the tale. After leaving Star Trek, Kelis released the 2006 song Bossy featuring Too Short. And just like Kelis had some revealing things to say about the Neptunes, the producer of the track, Bangladesh, had some revealing things to say about her too. On the podcast Bag Fuel, he said, "How the record was created? I did the whole beat, so that's already 50%. So then Sean Garrett wrote the hook. Jasper and another dude wrote the verses. But she kinda like quarterbacked it. I think the label got Too Short on it, so the numbers was adding up more than 100 because she was taking a lot of it, and she ain't do nothing." Then said, "What you was asking for doesn't justify the work you did. It was like you got 4 people on the writer's side, and you trying to take 25% of the 50, and it's like, this dude wrote the hook, this dude wrote the verse, you asking for too much, and there wasn't enough left for Too Short." The biggest revelation was that the song was released in 2006, and she only signed off on the royalties this year. So while Kelis may have had valid issues about working with Pharrell, he should have probably not waited 17 years to pay one of her producers. Make sure to subscribe.
Okay, that's the vid. Yeah, let me know what y'all think about this. Like beef between Pharrell and Kelis. Are y'all on Pharrell's side or y'all on Kelis' side? Let me know down in the comments down below. So yeah, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the vibe. We're checking out you are.